Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of Call to the Pen. We're here to start this off answering some questions that you all had for us over the last couple weeks. Brandon has a little list here, so why don't you start us off, Kent?
Yeah, so we had a fan ask a question, obviously about the Cubs bullpen. The Cubs bullpen's been struggling. We've been there. Tough place to pitch sometimes when things start going bad. They go real bad. But they want to know, like when things are going so bad, and what is like the conversations in the bullpen? What do we talk about? Are we pumping each other up? Obviously negativity can go far. You're such a tight knit group down there, and you really all you have is each other. So especially in like Wrigley, because you could just feel it. You give up a hit, and all of a sudden the phone rings again, and it's like, oh, here we go again. So they just had questions. What are we talking about down there? What's the vibe like? So what do you think?
I mean, I think a lot. Just from personal experience, I think you have a choice. It could go one or two ways. One, you could do something about it, and two, or you can just whimper and just let it all happen. 90% of the guys are going to go the first route, right? And so obviously adjustments need to be made on an individual level, but even as a cohesive unit, you're able to have those conversations, pull together. I remember we talked about it in the first episode, right? When we were struggling in 19 early on, we had a team meeting and guys rallied together, and Bussy, our strength coach, would call one guy out, and he's like, "You need to say something, pick someone out in the group, say something positive about him, something you love about him, and then we'll go on to the next one." He went around the entire room calling guys out, and everyone was just firing each other up. And lo and behold, all that negativity in our minds are gone because now we're pulling together as a unit. Now that's the first thing I think of is how can we right the ship? How can we make an adjustment? How can we pull together as a unit? And so it can go many ways how to do that. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think as far as you could do all the talk you want, right? Like we could pump each other up, we can do all that, but all in the end, it's all about action. It just takes one guy to start one good outing, and then all of a sudden, like you need like a one-run game, and everyone you go from the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and all the way up, where everyone is just pulling together. Everyone's getting shut down innings, and next thing you know, you're feeling good about yourself. And one, you can't panic. And you need a manager that's not going to panic either. So if a guy gives up a hit in the sixth, the phone can't ring right away.
Yeah.
Like it can't happen. And everyone will feel that down there. Like, oh man, if I give up a hit, I'm probably going to be out of here too. Like the leash isn't very far. And I don't know how David Ross runs it because we didn't play for him. But I definitely think it starts with the manager and starts with a good pitching coach and a bullpen coach to keep everything like very positive and even keel.
Tell them what you said before the show started about when you're running out of the pen, that feeling.
Oh, well, the worst is when you hear the doors open and you run out and you're already hearing the phone ring in the background. And I know Joe did that a few times to me. And you're running, you're just like, oh my gosh, like he has no faith in me. I'm running out here. This is so stupid. If I give up a hit, I'm definitely coming out of the game right away. Because back at that time, there wasn't a 3-batter minimum.
Right.
And if I give up a hit if there's a lefty on deck, so I give up a hit to this righty, I'm for sure coming out of this game because there's going to be a lefty. So your leash is just so short. It's the worst feeling in the world when the phone's ringing and it's so loud.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why am I even in this game right now? Just let that guy start the inning.
I like what you said about the one-run game too. Like when you're in a close ball game, both teams are battling and you're able to come away with a win in a one-run game. The bullpen, did their job and held it down. That's a huge confidence boost. That for me is like a instant click in the right direction. Like, all right, we did it. We got over that hump. Now we go. That's just, like I said, huge confidence boost. And then secondly, I know when you struggle out there as a group, it actually, I feel like pulls you together tighter because now you're really rooting for the guy to like have success, because if that guy has a success in front of you and passes the baton to the next guy, and all of a sudden you start catching some steam here, like you just start taking off. So sometimes it's, yes, you have to make adjustments, you have to talk and pull together and not hit the panic button. Other times it's just got to click. Like that one game's going to come and it's just boom. That's all it took, is just clicks, and now you go and everyone's doing their job. Essentially, if you're a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning guy, you have one job to do, If each guy can do it and get in a rhythm, then the bullpen's just going to take off. You know.
I remember one game we had that year that kind of helped us. It was against the Padres, and it was a hot, windy day. And I don't know, I forgot who started, but I went into like the sixth inning, and I got the first guy out, but then gave up like an infield hit, and then there was an error. I don't know if you remember, there was a pop up in right center, and everyone let it drop, and I covered second base.
Yep.
Because I'm the best athlete,
Of course,
I'm the smartest guy on the field. Yeah, and then I tagged the guy out, and I remember Rizzo called the infield in together, and just yelled at everybody, like clean it up, like can't play like this. This is like just just yelled at everyone. And then I got out of it, and it was still a 1-run game. And then bullpen came in and shut down. Stropey came in and had like a crazy ninth inning, and still ended up getting out of it. And that was like, because a game where you felt like you should have lost. Mm-hmm. And I think we ended up winning the series that way. But that pulled us together too, because when you're just grinding, especially in a hot day, windy day in Wrigley, like things can go. You can give up 15 runs in a heartbeat, and we didn't give up any, which is crazy. I think you came in. I think if I had the 6th, you probably had the 8th. I don't know who pitched the 7th, but games like that, especially when your leader is yelling at the whole team and you actually pull it off.
Right. Yep. No, totally. And that's the other side too, is some guys just need to get chewed out, you know. If how's the guy next to you, how's he preparing? Is he actually putting in the work and then still giving up if he's not? Like, all right, that's the adjustment you make. You need to go have that conversation with those guys. But for the most part, man, it's just like, it's a long season, it's a grind. But at some point, if it's still not going that way, it's a big adjustment needs to be made. You know, that 162 turns into a quick season and a miserable season if you don't pull it together.
Yeah, so I'm looking at that bullpen. Like, we were leaders of that bullpen. Well, we had a lot of veterans, but me and you probably had, before Craig got there, and we had Stropey.
Stropey got hurt.
But like, we had some young guys, and if the guys were slacking, we weren't afraid to like call them to the side and like, look, we can't be giving up runs and your preparation sucks.
Yeah.
Like, if you're prepared, you're in here, you're doing the work, and we're giving up runs, then it is what it is. But when we know you're not fully prepared and you're going in high leverage, and we're not going to name names, but we know who we're talking about. There was like, that's a problem.
Yep.
Like,
for sure,
we got to clean it up, especially when the manager keeps putting you in high leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at that bullpen, and I don't know who are they going to. Boxberger's hurt, and he's about as quiet as he can be anyway.
He's good though. He figured it out again the last couple of years.
Yeah, he has. He did. I think he did like Driveline before he came to Miami. He said he cleaned up his arm stuff when he went to Driveline. But either way, like, they just don't have that guy that's like to lean on and has all the experience. I mean, Fulmer is there. Is Fulmer,
yep.
His name? He doesn't have much bullpen experience, and then he's got like an 8, so he can't. I mean, when you have an 8, you can't say anything anyways.
Sure, you can.
It's just the way it goes. It's just the way it goes.
I don't know, man. Some of the best leaders I've had in the clubhouse were like a Jeff Mathis, who was our backup catcher. He was the man, and he'll tell you he couldn't hit in the big leagues, but I mean, obviously he could catch. He was the best catcher I've probably ever thrown to. But dude, those guys still can, because Fulmer's had good numbers over the last few years. I mean, he was a great starter when we moved to the pen. He's been pretty good. He's just, he might be in a funk right now. Who knows what's going on, but he can still clean it up, and he can get the other guys to do it too. I don't know what kind of personality he is.
But you gotta remember, he pitched in Detroit. You lose, nobody cares at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It is a difference of, like, I pitched for Minnesota in 16. We're the worst team in baseball, and I was a closer. It didn't matter if I blew a save or not.
Right. And
then 17, we're in the pennant race, and it kind of mattered. Then I went to Washington, and every other team I got on, I got more important. But he's been in Detroit for, I don't know, his whole career, and he's been in the bullpen the last couple of years, where his blown saves or any bad outing, good outing, nobody really cared. Now, I mean, even though the Cubs aren't expected to win, at least they say they're not trying to win this year. But I mean, the fans care.
Yeah.
The media cares.
I mean, I actually like that team. I'm surprised they're struggling the way they are. But you know how it is. If you don't have pitching, especially the bullpen, no one's locking it down. That's it's going to take a toll on the team. I think that's why having a bullpen is so important, man. Like, the most devastating thing is losing game after game when you have the lead, let's say going into the 7th, and you can't put it together. Like, that just derails a team's confidence. It happened to us in Miami in 2012, where our bullpen was struggling. Our season just went to absolute trash. And I think a lot of that had to do with, how we were doing out there. We were just grinding. And you see it a lot. You can't afford to keep losing game after game. If the bullpen's giving it up, it's tough.
Yeah, it's hard enough to get a lead in the big leagues, win games, and then when you're just losing them late and you show up the next day, it's like there's no team morale. It's like, how are we going to pull a game off today? Because if we have the lead, we're not fully confident we're going to some guys aren't available now. Now we're going to use the bottom depth chart of the bullpen, and now we're going to be in big trouble. But that's how guys really create names for themselves in the big leagues. When you're the 6th, 7th guy in the bullpen and a team's struggling, and you step up, and next thing you know, you're the guy.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
And all of a sudden you become a guy. That's just how
Absolutely.
It happens.
And those teams, when they go through these struggles and then they actually pull together and put a run on, like, what was it, the 2019 Nats? I mean, that's a team with character. Like, you're losing all these games, probably late in the game a lot of times, and all of a sudden you start putting it together because the team got together and rallied each other up and like, all right, enough's enough. Like, we're going to step on the gas pedal and let's let it rip, and who cares what happens. And sure enough, teams like that with high character, they figure it out, man.
Yeah, Doolittle absolutely killed himself trying to hold that team together, and then they made those acquisitions at the trade deadline to help him out. But man, that guy,
he's a man.
That guy carried that team for a while.
I love that guy. He's still fighting through his elbow, trying to make a comeback. He wants to give it another run. Yeah. He had Tommy John.
It's crazy. He's got elbow problems for a guy that throws all fastballs.
He throws hard for a long time. And I don't know how many, we can look it up, how many career appearances he has, but it's up there. He's been elite for a long. He was elite for a long time. I'm excited to see when he comes back.
Best guys great catch partner. There's nothing but fastballs at the chest, straight.
Yeah, but it's sneaky though. Like you think you see it, and all of a sudden it's on you, and it's like at your forehead. Like, I started at my chest.
Yeah,
and the thing just like
true.
It's pretty cool. That's those fastballs.
He had the ride or the rise when no one was ever
before.
Talking about
like, how's this guy getting away with just fastballs? I get it. He throws 95 plus, but like, come on, everyone in the league hits fastballs. Nope. He knew the ride more than better than anyone else at the time. Yeah. I
loved being teammates with him, and then he had like this foot problem or a toe problem, and I'd be like, "Oh, my foot hurts," like because he couldn't pitch anymore. Like,
stop.
My knee hurts.
Well, you know what's funny? Well, when you play against him, he's so fiery and tense looking. He's got the beard and the glasses. You think he's gonna like rip your throat out, and then you're on his team, and he's like the nicest human being on the planet. It's amazing.
Yeah, like, hi, my name's Sean. I love Star Wars.
We got him the boys this last season got him a Darth Vader helmet from the original actor signed by him. Was it Prose, I think is his last name, the actor? I'm drawing a blank right now. It was pretty sick. Yeah. So everyone rallied together and got that for his it was his 10th year service time. Yeah. As a gift. It was pretty cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Big Star Wars guy. Yep.
That's a very like touchy subject for me, Steve. I came up a little bit short.
Did you really? You still got time. You're not retired. What are you talking about?
I'm not fully retired, but I needed like 30-something days, and I was definitely counting down the days.
Dude, come on.
Yeah, like give me a 60-day DL. Let me get my days in or something. Like,
all right, people.
The Brewers did for Locaine.
All right, those we need the fans vote to see if if Kins needs to come back to get those 30+ days back. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need that in the comment section.
I remember saying it. I was like, there ain't no way I'm gonna get the. There's like no way I could survive. It's like if I survive the trade deadline, I can get my 10 years. Oh,
so close.
That was a tough blow.
I think you can.
And then I got offered to go to AAA from Atlanta that year, and I was just like so over baseball and hated baseball, and I probably could have ended up getting called back up and would have won a dang World Series. So that was salty wound there.
We all have our salty wounds. Mine was with the Astros. Like, no, we're not going to make the team out of spring. I'm like, but you told me if I had a good spring, it's my job to lose. What are you talking about?
They went to the World Series. 10,000 home runs you gave up your first outing.
That didn't count. We were trying change-ups out, and as soon as I came out of that, I went right in the dugout. I was like, that's why I don't throw change-ups. They're like, okay. That's it.
The thing is, when I play with you, I liked your change-up.
I know, it's just not the same out there. I don't get it. Anyways, but hey, what?
It's because you throw underhand.
Yeah, but underhand guys, they're able to throw pretty good changeups. I was just a unicorn, I guess. But cause that's because I think I throw overhanded.
That's one thing.
What?
I meant to ask you last week, like, since you're like you have deception, when you come in, do you mentally know that like you already have an advantage?
Yeah, it depends who it is, I guess. I know which
Like
hitter I was like
a lefty, you're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna see this
this
forever.
for the most part. Oh, not every lefty though. There's some guys that I match up well with, like lefties that hate backdoor sliders were my thing because I just eat them up back there and just ram a
Yeah.
fastball, four seam up and in on them. And I always pick my spots with lefties, but certain righties, yeah, I'm like in my mind, like this guy doesn't have a chance. You know, but then he could tell me too in his swing, like I could just see it in his eyes, like in his how uncomfortable he is, or if a guy's too comfortable, I typically try to stand him up a little bit. But for the most part, there's certain guys I'm like, I don't know, like the Austin Rileys of the world that just absolutely tattoo the ball off me. Sean Murphy, Ian Desmond was my probably biggest nemesis. Those guys just own me, and I just so there's the other way around too.
Well, I think guys that chased that were really good in off the plate, because I mean, no one. It's hard to stay in on you guys like away. So if you had when you went in, and if guys were good in off, like Simeon,
Yeah.
I remember he hit that homer off you in that crazy Oakland game we had in
Yep.
Wrigley. I think those are probably the guys that were probably better
Yep.
against you.
Mookie Betts was a guy too. I didn't face him too much, but I didn't really want to go in on him because I've seen him do damage on sinkers way off the plate and keeps it fair. Like I just
Mookie's the
quick
best.
hands, man. So
He owns me. I think he's got like 4 homers off me or something.
well, that's a good person to own you. I mean, he's elite.
Oh, you want to know who owns me? Adam Duvall. Oh my gosh.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Let's see.
You know why?
He's got 3 homers off me and 4 at
So
bats.
every one of those guys, I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone could hit a leak back two seamer like hard, but those guys just don't miss. That's just their wheelhouse. And what is our miss? Our misses are leak back two seamers. We either get a rollover ground ball or
Right.
it's sent to the moon. Like it's just, it is what it is.
Or yank sinkers. Yank sinkers in, go really far.
Lefties.
No, let's go to righties. Say you're going in and you kind of yank it and
Middle,
becomes
yeah,
middle
yeah.
and
Yep,
fastball.
totally. So I get it.
But his homer was a slider out over the plate, off the like out in front. He hit it off the foul pole. Next time I faced him, I yanked the sinker kind of middle down. He hits it out to center. Then I punched him out next time. So I threw a slider threw some sliders that day, and I struck him out. Next time I faced him, sinker down and in off the plate, homer. It's like this guy's the best player I've ever seen.
I mean, he's pretty good, and he's certainly got pop.
I know, but holy crap!
Yeah.
What are the odds of all that, though?
He likes sinkers. Stop throwing sinkers.
I know it's just
and
sliders
sloppy
the whole time.
sliders. He's a
remember
good mistake here.
No, this was.
Welcome to the show.
I had good sliders. What was it? 2020. We were playing them. We're trying to clinch. It was a game before we clinched. And I was like, if I face Duvall, I'm going to get ahead with a sinker away. I'm just going to throw all sliders after that, and I'm going to celebrate the heck out of that. So then, like, it brought me in a huge jam. Punched him out. I'm like going like this. Like, can't believe I get this guy out. Can't believe Don Malley brought me in this game, knowing that this guy absolutely owns me.
He just probably saw righty power sinker. Let's go. Forget the matrix. Forget the stats. Close your eyes.
Yeah, that's what I like about Don. He didn't care. Don always wanted to know like who's got the nuts.
Yeah, I like that. So that's how Ozzie Guillen was. But on that subject, let's get back on track here. How to deal with how to deal with failure. So, I mean, we talk about bullpen struggles. That's as a unit. What about the individual? Like, what has failure done for you in your career?
Oh man, failure's put me in one. I think failure made me who I was. It made me stronger. When you can become strong-willed through failure, I mean, it all depends what you say. Like injuries create a little bit of failure because you have to come all the way back, or failure obviously on the field. I think failure on the field is where you learn a lot about yourself, and injuries, because injuries you're going to go into dark places, and it gets depressing not be able to play. The game's taken away from you, and you really have to like motivate yourself, and no one's going to motivate you. And then when we'd have bad games, I think it just says a lot. Can you show up the next day with like acting like it never happened, And can you go back out there and then really get past? Because if let's say you had a bad outing the night before, let's just say you're a high leverage guy, and you had a bad outing, you gave it up, and the next day, thank God you have a great manager, and he put you right back in the game, and you give up a hit, a missile. Say you give a leadoff double, first guy, and everyone is like, "Here we go again." Can you overcome that? And that's where you'll learn more about yourself than getting a clean
Totally.
1-2-3 inning.
Yep. Yep. And that's what outings like that are what get you back on track too, right? Like, oh, sick, leadoff double. You could either say, oh, here we go again, or like, no, it's not happening today. Like this is it. And you put your foot down. Now, obviously, I think ultimately we're not totally in control once that ball leaves your hand, but the mindset it can be there, right? So, I mean, that's all it is a mindset. How to overcome it. And failure for me is like you said was what made me. I mean, if you coast through life, even let's say, and nothing tough ever happens to you, you don't have to deal with any sort of adversity, you're not going to grow as a man. Just like being a pitcher. I mean, if you're going to coast through the minor leagues and not have to deal with any sort of failure, you get called up to the big leagues and all of a sudden you're failing, like you have no backbone. You have nothing to fall back on to help you get through that. So like a lot of failure, especially early on in my career, was what helped me get through it. In low A in Greensboro, I got destroyed. Like, I mean, small field. I didn't have an off-speed pitch. I had no slider, just threw heaters and changeups, believe it or not. My changeup was decent back then, but I got tattooed all over the place. Go figure, minor leaguers can hit fastballs. Well, the next year, I'm like, well, I need to figure something out. I got taught a spike slider. I think we talked about it a little bit before. And that offseason, I just worked on mastering that thing. Like, I got to figure out a secondary pitch to get righties off my sinker, or else this is it for me. And had I not gone through the failure, A, to learn a new pitch, but B, to learn how to overcome that and say, no, that's it, I'm just going to keep attacking, like, I would have been stuck in the minor leagues. But by God's grace, man, you get refined by fire, and failure is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Do you think ever been a time when you're doing your, let's say, big league career where you took yourself back to those moments in the
100%.
minor leagues and knowing that, like, hey, this got me through this situation?
This is exactly how, and I used it my whole career. Like, when I had that season, I was scared to death to make a mistake, right? Because I have, you have your pitching coordinator come and watch you. You want to move up to the next level. You're getting rocked in front of this guy. All of a sudden, these fears creep in. I've never really had this happen too much before. Well, got through the season, whatever. That off season, like, I push myself to the max, like just beat my body up in the weight room and running. And I mean, I wasn't doing Cressy workouts yet, but I was like really pushing myself, like bad workouts, but working really hard at it. And I got stronger and built up some mental toughness, I felt like. And that next year, I'm like, I'm going into spring training this year. And this actually just what you said happened. I'm going to spring training next year, and if I give it up, I don't even care. I'm just going to keep pounding the strike zone, and if I get rocked, so be it. I'm going out there with my best stuff. I don't care anymore. And sure enough, the first guy I faced, Isaac Galloway, I remember this, and he was like a I don't know, rookie ball player, maybe low A, hit a bloop double, like fell in the outfield double. I'm like,
the worst.
Nope. Mm-mm. Actually, the first pitch I threw off the top of the backstop and then gave up a bloop double. I'm like, no, that's it. And I think I punched out the side after that with some like hair behind it. And I won pitcher of the day the next day. Our pitching coordinator was fired up because he saw like something different in my eyes. So I was like, enough's enough. Like, what am I so scared of? I'm going to go out. If I'm going to get released or whatever, I'm going out with my best stuff. I don't, it is what it is. And so from that point on, yeah, I realized, especially with my faith too, in God, just like, once the ball leaves, as long as I prepare and push myself prior to my outing, and I go in there with the same mindset, for me, giving all the glory to God, it takes all the pressure off me. And I go out there as hard as I possibly can, and whatever happens, happens. And that brings me back to my minor league days as well. Going out there with my best stuff, even if it's not the same today, and my mindset's the same. If I give it up, it's with my best stuff I have for that day. If I have success, it's the best stuff I had that day. No different, right? So, what about you?
You're right. Do you ever think you went through a dark time where you're just like, man, like, I'm kind of lost. Like, what did I do before? And you like really had to sit and think about, like, how did I get myself through those other times? Like, what did it? And then and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's what I did. And then all of a sudden you show up the next day and you're like, man on a mission.
I always tell people this. I go through that 3 times a season. It's a long season. You get into a rut, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it's lack of sleep, you're just tired from the outings, or you're just not thinking clearly. It's almost like that feeling when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having irrational thoughts, right? And you just can't get it out of your head.
Oh
You
my
can't go back to
goodness.
sleep. I get there's like 3 times during a season where I'm just kind of a mess for like, I don't know, 4 days to a week long, let's say. And what happens for me is I actually like watching. I watch a lot of video, and I'll go back and watch videos where I was having my best outings. Everything was clicking. I felt it, and
Right.
then I just go through that in my head. I remember how it felt, and just keep bringing myself back to that moment until it clicks for me again. Like, oh yeah, I can do this. I left the sinker down the middle, got beat straight into the ground. As baseball. Like, what am I sweating about? But it happens like 3 times a year, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, Eddie Guardado talked about that all the time. Like he'd catch me in the video room. He'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to figure this out." He goes, "Well, where was the pitch?" I'm like, "Well, it's you know, leak back sinker or bad fastball, whatever." He goes, "Let's just focus on." He goes, "That's your whole problem. Just focus on the execution. If you make a better pitch, the guy's
Yeah.
out." And all of a sudden, you're just like, it is that simple. Because when I got traded at 18, I'll never forget. I could not sleep ever because I had so much anxiety in Chicago. And then I remember I would go up. Next thing you know, I catch myself in the basement doing dry runs. When you're doing dry runs in the basement at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're just in a bad place. One, you're doing shower dry runs, you're in a really bad place.
Just the visual itself is
Well,
bad.
I remember
Puts you in a bad place.
we had Nest cams down there. We
No.
had Nest cams down there, and Melissa the next day, Melissa's my wife. The next day, and she shows me. She goes, "What were you doing?" I'm like, "I don't even know. Sleepwalking."
Sleepwalking through mechanics. Oh no. We've all been there. I do it
Oh,
in my
that's the
hotel
worst.
room, dude. I'm like, all right, well, I'd see something in video that's different. I'm struggling. I'm like, I'm leaning up against the bed and doing all this weird stuff, trying to.
Yes,
It's crazy.
those were the
Uh,
worst times.
it
The
was, but
worst. It's like you're fighting like an
uh,
addiction. You're just like it's almost like you're like, "Okay, you want about to do the journey?" Like, no, 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 and it's just like fighting. I don't know any alcohol or gambling or anything. It's so hard when you're in a bad place to just not practice a dry run because it's constantly in your head.
dude, I remember the first time I met you. And I was like, this is how I knew I was going to like this guy because you're still putting in the reps. You got traded over to the Cubs, and immediately on the plane, you're looking at video of your mechanics, and you're like leaned over and like, hey, are my hands higher here? I'm like, yeah, man. I mean, I was just telling you whatever you wanted to hear at the time. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, you clean that up, you're going to be right back, to your all-star self, whatever. And so I just wanted to tell you what you wanted to hear so you can hopefully get through it. But then I learned down the road that I just need to tell you what you don't want to hear a lot of times and just be blunt with you. And it worked out great.
You should have told me, dude, stop being a little, you know
Yeah.
what, and just go
Well, you
throw the
told me that
ball.
one time.
Or you should have said, dude, when I play catch, your sinkers move all over the
There we
place.
go. You
Just do
brought me
that.
back. So one thing is when all that's going on, and this is important for the young people, your catch play is like huge. Like we were the worst catch partners, but I think, well, yeah, because we throw heavy sinkers and stuff, but we also kind of get after it every time, right? Unless we're dragging, because you get into horrible habits if you don't take your catch play seriously. Like Adam Wainwright has some of the best
Yeah, really
advice
bad.
on catch play if you ever get a chance to read his stuff. But he every throw pretty much matters when it comes to catch play. And I think that's the approach we took every single day, right? Unless we needed a day, is we were trying to just hammer those
Yeah.
sinkers at the hip. You're trying to work on the backdoor sinkers, the righty. You had me stand a certain way for your visual. I just wear it for you, but you do the same thing for me because we wanted to be sharp and better every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, I was excited to play catch because I knew we were going to have great work and it was going to carry over. Like that year, I was just excited. Like it was just really good. There was no messing around, even though it looked like we are messing around, but it was like every throw had a full purpose. I was sinkers down and into
Mm-hmm.
you at your kneecaps. But the thing is, we gave good feedback to each other, which I think is
Yeah.
most
Good point.
important. It's why I hate when a guy just catches it and throws it back. Like, let me know. Like, let me know if that's a good one, so I can move on
Yep.
to the next
And
one.
if you're the guy catching the ball, like stick it for your partner one time. Like I love playing catch with bullpen catchers because you hear the glove pop, but they always like boom, like stuck it right there. I'm like, yeah, I got it today.
Yeah,
It could be like I pitched 3 days in a row and
yeah,
I'm playing catch, and my partner's like really getting me in a rhythm and sticking everything I'm throwing. It's just that little extra confidence boost, you know. Yeah, just
Yeah.
be a good catch partner.
Back to the, I was thinking about the
Hmm.
failure part. I remember this is when I was in a dark place. Like obviously 18, I was in a dark place, and then 19, I go into spring training. I thought I was not in a dark place, and then I knew like I wasn't. Even though my contract was guaranteed, I wasn't guaranteed to make the team because it's the Cubs and the money doesn't matter to them. They just need to
Yep.
win. And I started off spring training bad. I was getting rocked. I just could not, and I was starting to get to this moment again where I was going to start practice. Here I am practicing stuff in the living room and sending dry videos to random people, seeing what they think. And I remember I went into Tewksbury's office. This is where first time I ever went into the team shrink's office, and I just unloaded all this weight on my back and everything I felt, towards anything. And it just felt so good. And he gave me a plan of each day of like how I can stay out of my own way, really. Like he gave me such a good plan. And he talked about like, he goes, act like you're an assassin. He goes, you have kind of like, you seem like an assassin. He goes, it seems like you're just freaking out all day and you're trying to like build up this outing before you ever even get out there. And by the time you get out there, you've already like stressed yourself. He goes, how about when you get in the bullpen, it's kind of like an assassin, he's just cleaning his gun, or I mean, he's just his weapons. Let's just say he's cleaning his weapons, and then all of a sudden, you'll say an assassin gets the call where he's got to go. So when the bullpen rings, you're just getting the call where you're supposed to go. So mentally, you're just slowly starting preparing as you're warming up, and then you're not there yet. So don't start. You haven't seen the target yet. So don't start freaking out. He goes, but don't start really turning it on until those gates open, and then the assassin will get his assignment, and then that's when your work starts. And I kind of it worked because it kept me calm of what I was doing the whole day, instead of like worried about my mechanics all freaking day, and then I'd be freaking out. And then that just like one unloading on him got all this stuff out of my head. I just felt so good. But then now I had a game
Yeah.
plan mentally every day, which I never really practiced throughout my career. But at that point, I needed some help. And I remember I had a good outing, and Joe sits next to me. He goes, "What was that?" I was like, "I just got to get out of my own way. Like, I'm just on my own worst enemy. I'm just holding myself back." And I remember having a visual. What Tewksbury taught me coming out of the bullpen was like pushing myself out of the way, like standing in my. I would visualize me in my way, and I would just like push him out of the way, and it was like
Yep.
freedom. It was so weird,
That's
but it
great.
worked so
So having a
good.
plan to get out of your own way. So
Yeah. And then reading started. He had me start reading to distract my mind to help get a game plan. So I started reading. My first one was David Goggins, which I think Can't Hurt Me was just like the ultimate book for me to read that year. And I remember coming out. I remember we're in Atlanta. I was coming to some huge jam. You know, in Atlanta, they turn the lights down and they
yeah,
start doing the
I
chop
love
and
that.
stuff's going crazy. And I just had like the game plan of what I've already Tewksbury had for me. And then I had the Goggins mentality, and I thought I was unstoppable, and
Wow.
it worked. And it was just, I don't know, that was just how I got through it to that year. And it helped me carry on for at least the
That's
next
great.
couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, especially you said Atlanta, like when you go on the road, like just alone, that will fire me up and get me going. You know, if you don't have any
Yeah.
steam that day,
Yeah.
the opposing team actually fires you up a little bit. It's like, yeah, this is it. Well, that's great, dude. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times, guys get lost, and that's what separates, um, you know, big leaguers from the minor leaguers, right? There's so many minor leaguers that have tremendous stuff or can hit the ball a mile, but they can't get out of their own way. And so those guys just get stuck down there, and the ones that are able to figure that out, are the ones that obviously stick around. They're just guys with not as great stuff in the big leagues, but they know how to, put all that stuff aside and have a plan like you had. And so I think that's, good stuff for, young guys to listen to.
Yeah. I just think, like you said, you have all of a sudden you give up a hit and you're like, not today. Like, what am I doing? Like, it's not happening today. Or it's just tough to like, or you have a bad outing and you'll just know that you're just like, that was totally unnecessary. Like I probably walked 3 guys because I was thinking way too much. I was trying to do too much. I was totally in my own way. Like just go out there and be an athlete and
Yep.
compete.
And when I say not today too, I think it's important. It's like, if I say not today and I give up a double, that's still the same mindset I had as if I'm like, not today, our run's not scoring. I'm choosing not to give in to the negativity. Like, oh, it just happened again. Yeah. It's just
Right,
a
right.
choice you have every single pitch. You're either locked in or you're going to choose just to be lazy minded or scared. Like, no, every pitch I'm locked. Every pitch
Yeah.
I'm locked. No matter what the situation, locked in. And, when we're typically when bullpen guys or anyone, hitters are in trouble, it's because guess what? You're in your own way. You're believing something that's not true. It's just crazy, man.
You're diving in. You're into the Twitter world, which is
Yeah,
never
if you
good.
can't handle social
The
media,
crowd, like,
just get it out of there.
yeah. I never, not one time in my playing career did I have like a
Smart.
Twitter, because I knew like it was just too much negativity. It wasn't gonna be
Yep.
anything good for me.
So true. Hey, real quick, if we have time for one more question, I got asked
Okay.
on piggybacks of this. How do you know when it's time to call it a career? Especially if you're in the minor leagues. I think that was the question. Which I think I
When
think
it's
I think you have good insight.
when it feels like a job. First of all, when you're not
Yeah.
having fun, especially if you're in the big leagues, when you're not having fun, I think it's time to go. And you can't. If you're not having fun, you're probably not going to perform. I think Ryan Braun talked about it a lot, where he's like, "I'll probably just go home when it feels like a job." And I think,
Yeah.
and that's for me. Like, I wasn't having fun anymore, and I didn't even want to go to the field anymore, and I couldn't get anybody out because I didn't want to go to the
There
field.
it
I didn't
is,
want to
yeah.
prepare anymore. I just
You just
did
didn't have
not
that
want to do it
spark
anymore.
no, that's
about
it
you?
right there. I mean, I think it's huge. 'Cause you lose that spark, it's like, man, I don't even know if I want to, do this anymore or put in the work for it. And that's when, like, all right, you should probably hang it up because you're wasting your own time, your family's time. And especially if you're a minor leaguer and you have family, you're not making any money. Like that's hard, man. That's a tough decision you
Right.
got to make. And I feel for guys that have gone through it. But if you kind of just in the middle of nowhere and you're losing hope and you're kind of losing that desire, it's like, look, you're wasting a lot of other people's time too. Like, just hang it up. And if there's something, or a lot of times there's other interests that pull you aside. Maybe you have a job opportunity if you're a minor leaguer that pays better and will help set up your family a little bit better. And you're just an organizational guy floating around. And you see the writing on the wall. It's just a lot of tough, mature decisions you have to make, I feel like. And for me, even as a big leaguer, like,
Yeah.
I kind of had this planned out. Like, last year was probably going to be it, but who knows? Like, maybe I catch that fire, and all I knew is till the last day I threw, I was going to give everything I possibly had. And after that season, when my wife and I got together, it's like, hey, it's time to be with the family. This is what I'd rather be doing right now, is being with my family. So, and healing up from all those outings I've had. So, yeah.
I remember always seeing like the old guy that was still playing. I'm like, does that guy hate his family or something? Like, just go
Yeah.
home. Like, I never want to be that guy. All of a sudden, I was slowly becoming that guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go home. Like,
And now it's
like I don't hate my family. I really want to be with my family.
it's so true. I love.
Which is, I can't wait till we have Max on, because I want to know like what drives Max. I can't
Absolutely.
wait for those questions. Like, why you're going to be in the Hall of Fame? You've already won the World Series. Like, what really drives Max Scherzer? And I can't wait for those questions. And then next week,
Yeah,
I
we're
think
trying
we're
to
gonna
get
have
Eric
Cressy
Cressy on,
right?
good friend of ours, and he has a great podcast to listen to. So we'll talk about all that stuff next week.